If you feel empty, you're just living on the porch of your own house.
Have you ever felt it? A particular kind of quiet. A loneliness that has nothing to do with how many people are in the room. It's a subtle ache, a hollow space behind your ribs that no amount of success or laughter or love from the outside seems to fill. It's the feeling of being a stranger in your own life, watching a movie of yourself where you know the lines, you hit the cues, but the connection to the character feels distant, faded. You might be incredibly competent, the one everyone relies on, and yet when the day ends and the noise fades, there's a profound sense of absence, a feeling that you are somehow standing on the outside of your own experience, looking in. You know, there's a most extraordinary paradox that occurs when one begins to awaken to the fundamental nature of existence. This feeling, this pervasive sense of emptiness, is not a sign that you are broken. It is not evidence of a flaw in your design. It is a whisper. It is a quiet, persistent invitation. It's as if, deep inside of you, there is a house. A vast and beautiful house, with countless rooms, intricate hallways, and windows that could look out onto any landscape imaginable. This house is uniquely, profoundly yours. It was built just for you. But for a very long time, perhaps your entire life, you've been living on the front porch. You've been sleeping on the welcome mat, shivering in the cold, all while holding the key to the front door in your hand, perhaps without even realizing it. You can peer through the windows, you can see the shapes of furniture covered in white cloths, you can hear the faint echoes of music from a room deep within, but you don't go inside, because going inside feels terrifying, more terrifying than the familiar discomfort of the cold. This house is the architecture of your soul, your psyche, and the emptiness you feel is not an absence of self, but the cavernous echo of all the uninhabited rooms. It's the sound of a home waiting for its owner to return. It is the deep, resonant call of your own life, asking you to come inside. If this feeling, this image of a house waiting for you, resonates somewhere deep within that quiet space, then I invite you to journey with me, not as a guide who has all the answers, but as a fellow traveler, someone to hold a lantern as we take the first few tentative steps across the threshold together. The work we do here at Mind Decode Explained is about turning towards these inner spaces with curiosity and profound kindness. If you feel ready to explore, consider subscribing and joining our community. Let's turn the key. Let's walk inside, together. The first thing we notice as we step into the entryway is the stillness. The air is thick with disuse. Light struggles to filter through dusty window panes, illuminating dancing particles in the air. Straight ahead is the grand living room, the place where one would typically entertain guests, but here everything is covered. The grand sofa, the ornate chairs, the beautiful piano in the corner, all draped in white, ghost-like sheets. This is the room of our persona, the self we present to the world. It's tidy, it's orderly, it's carefully protected. We keep it this way because we believe it's what people want to see. We've learned that showing the real fabric of our furniture, the worn patches on the armrests, the small wine stain from years ago, the comfortable indentations where we truly rest, is too risky. What if they judge the scuffs? What if they don't like our taste? The brilliant researcher and storyteller Brené Brown speaks of this phenomenon with such clarity. She teaches us that vulnerability is not weakness. It is, in fact, our greatest measure of courage. But for many of us, the lessons we learned early in life taught us the opposite. We were taught that to be accepted, to be safe, we must present a version of ourselves that is flawless, agreeable, and invulnerable. So, we cover the furniture of our true selves with the sterile white sheets of perfectionism and people-pleasing. We spend enormous amounts of energy keeping these sheets clean and in place. We become exhausted hosts of a party no one is truly attending, because no one, including ourselves, gets to experience the authentic comfort of the room. The emptiness you feel is, in part, the profound loneliness of living in a showroom instead of a home. It is the ache of knowing that the people in your life love the pristine, covered version, and the fear that if you were to pull back the sheets, they would leave. Take a gentle, imaginary breath. Can you feel the truth in that? The exhaustion of holding it all together? The faint longing to just rip off the sheets and sink into the worn, comfortable velvet of the real sofa, scuffs and all? This is the first thorn, the first deeply ingrained misconception we must gently remove, the belief that our worth lies in our flawlessness. The truth is that connection, true human connection, is not forged in perfection. It is forged in the shared, beautiful mess of our humanity. It happens when we have the courage to pull back a corner of the sheet and say, "This is me. This is where I'm worn. This is where I'm stained. It's part of my story." As we stand in this silent, covered living room, we might also notice a chill in the air, a persistent draft. We trace it to the windows and the doors. The latches on the windows are loose, and the lock on the front door doesn't feel entirely secure. They rattle with every gust of wind from the outside world. This is the architecture of our boundaries. For many of us, these were never properly installed. If you grew up in an environment where your emotional or physical space was not consistently respected, you never learned how to build a sturdy door or a window that closes firmly. This is the essence of what psychologists call an insecure attachment. It's like growing up in a house where the front door was sometimes locked tight, sometimes left wide open for anyone to wander in. And you never knew which it would be. You never learned what a safe and reliable threshold feels like. So, as an adult, you live with the draft. You mistake the cold for normal. The biting winds of other people's opinions, demands, and emotional states blow right into your inner home, and you find yourself constantly shivering, trying to function while feeling exposed and cold. You might say yes when your body is screaming no. You might absorb a friend's anxiety or a partner's anger as if it's your own weather system. You might feel responsible for the happiness of everyone around you, leaving no warmth for yourself. This lack of sturdy boundaries means your inner home never has a chance to regulate its own temperature. It is always at the mercy of the external climate. The emptiness, then, also feels like being hollowed out by the wind, a space that cannot hold its own warmth, its own peace. Building healthy boundaries is not an act of selfishness. It's the simple, necessary act of weatherproofing your own home so that you can finally feel safe and warm inside. It is learning to say, with kindness but also with firmness, "This is my threshold. The wind stops here." Let's move deeper into the house. There's a staircase leading up and another door leading down. Let's start by going up. The stairs creak with a deep, resonant sorrow, as if they are not used to carrying weight. We arrive in a long, dark hallway. At the very end, a pull cord hangs from the ceiling. It leads to the attic. There's a part of us that hesitates. We know what's up there. Boxes. Piles and piles of boxes, sealed shut for decades. They are filled with the artifacts of our past. Old photographs, forgotten letters, painful memories, and moments of ecstatic joy that we packed away because they felt too intense to hold. We avoid the attic because we're afraid. We're afraid of the dust, the spiders, but mostly, we're afraid of the contents of those boxes. To open them would be to feel everything again. The grief of a loss, the sting of a betrayal, the shame of a mistake. The physician and trauma researcher Bessel van der Kolk wrote a groundbreaking book titled "The Body Keeps the Score." His work illuminates a profound truth. What the mind tries to forget, the body holds on to. The unprocessed experiences of our past don't just vanish. They are stored in our nervous system, in our muscle tension, in the very chemistry of our being. That constant, low-level anxiety you might feel, that's the weight of the unopened boxes in the attic, pressing down on the ceilings of the rooms below. That chronic shoulder pain or tightness in your jaw. It's the physical manifestation of memories your body is still bracing against. The dust in the attic is not just dust. It's the psychosomatic residue of unshed tears. The creaks and groans of the house are not just the building settling. They are the voice of your body, telling the stories you haven't yet been able to put into words. The emptiness can be a form of numbness, a dissociation. It's the feeling of having sealed off the entire top floor of your own home because the thought of going up there and sorting through the contents is simply too overwhelming. So we live on the ground floor, pretending the attic doesn't exist, all while the ceiling above us bows under the immense weight of our unexamined life. The path to healing doesn't require us to unpack everything at once. It begins with the courage to simply pull the cord, to let a sliver of light into the darkness, and to acknowledge, yes, there is a history here, and it is my history. Now, let's walk back down the creaking stairs, past the covered living room, and stand before the other door, the one leading down. This door is different. It's not just closed. It's bolted. It might have multiple locks, and a thick wooden beam propped against it for good measure. There are scratch marks on the floor, as if we've spent a lifetime barricading it shut. From behind the door, we can sometimes hear things: a low growl, a desperate sob, a rage-filled scream. This is the door to the basement, and we are terrified of what lives down there. The great psychoanalyst Carl Jung had a name for what's in our basement. He called it the shadow. The shadow is the repository for every part of ourselves that we have deemed unacceptable. It's everything we were taught was bad, wrong, or unlovable. It's our rage, our envy, our greed, our vulnerability, our wild, untamed creativity, our profound sadness. From a young age, we are taught to disown these parts. A little boy is told, "Boys don't cry," so he takes his sadness and locks it in the basement. A little girl is told, "Good girls aren't angry," so she shoves her righteous fury down into the dark. We take our perceived flaws, our insecurities, our deepest longings, and we exile them to the cellar of our psyche. We then spend the rest of our lives devoting an incredible amount of energy to keeping that door locked. This is the source of so much of our anxiety and exhaustion. We live in constant fear that something might escape. We might be in a meeting and feel a flicker of rage, and we slam the inner door shut. We might feel a pang of envy looking at a friend's life, and we push it down, ashamed of the feeling itself. The paradox is that the more we suppress the shadow, the more powerful it becomes. The things in the basement don't go away. They just get louder. They bang on the pipes. They rattle the foundations. They project their forms onto the people around us. We start seeing our own disowned anger in our partner, our own unacknowledged insecurity in our colleagues. Jung famously said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." He understood that wholeness does not come from amputating the parts of ourselves we don't like. It comes from integration. Here we encounter the second great thorn, the second destructive misconception, the belief that self-improvement is about getting rid of our bad parts. This is a war we can never win because we are fighting against ourselves. The emptiness you feel is the cavernous space left by all the parts of you that you have banished. You are living in a fraction of your own home, while a huge portion of your life force, your passion, and your power is locked away in the dark. The journey to wholeness is not about waging war on the basement. It is about having the breathtaking courage to walk to the door, not with a weapon, but with a lantern, and to whisper, "I'm ready to listen." As we stand here, contemplating the attic full of memories and the basement full of disowned parts, we might begin to notice something even more fundamental, a slight tremor in the floor, a subtle, pervasive instability. If we were to go all the way down into the very cellar, past the shadow aspects, we would find the foundation of the house itself. And in many of us, this foundation is cracked. The foundation is made of our core beliefs. These are the fundamental assumptions we have about ourselves, about others, and about the world, often formed in the first few years of our lives. They are the inscriptions carved into the bedrock of our psyche. For so many of us who feel that persistent emptiness, the inscriptions read something like this: I am not good enough. I am unlovable. I must be perfect to be worthy of love. My needs don't matter. I am fundamentally alone. My needs don't matter. My needs don't matter. These beliefs are formed from our earliest experiences. If a child's cries for comfort are met with irritation or neglect, the foundation stone of my needs are a burden begins to set. If love and approval are only given in response to achievement, the belief my worth is based on my performance becomes the cornerstone of the entire structure. We then build our entire house, our entire life on top of this cracked and unstable foundation. We can redecorate the living room 1,000 times. We can organize the attic. We can even try to negotiate with the basement. But as long as the foundation is compromised, the entire structure will feel unsafe. The house will tremble. We try to compensate. We might become relentless overachievers, trying to build a skyscraper of accomplishments on top of the I'm not good enough foundation, hoping the height will make us forget the instability below. We might become compulsive caregivers, endlessly trying to meet everyone else's needs to prove our own lovability, all while our own foundation crumbles from neglect. The emptiness, in this deepest sense, is the feeling of existential groundlessness. It is the terror of living in a structure you intuitively know is unsound. You can't ever fully relax. You can't ever feel truly safe or at home, because the very ground beneath your feet feels like it could give way at any moment. The healing here is not about decorating. It is the slow, patient, and profound work of repairing the foundation. It is about learning to challenge those ancient inscriptions and, with painstaking love, begin to carve new ones. I am inherently worthy. I am deserving of love, exactly as I am. It is safe for me to have needs and to express them. So here we are, standing in the heart of this house. We've seen the covered furniture in the living room, felt the draft from the poorly sealed windows, acknowledged the weight of the attic, and stood before the bolted basement door. We've felt the tremor from the cracked foundation. It can feel overwhelming, can't it? Like a ruin, like a place too broken to ever be a home. We can feel a sense of despair, a desire to turn around, walk back out the front door, and go back to the familiar discomfort of the porch. At least out there, we don't have to face all of this. But please, just wait a moment. Stay here with me. Take a breath. I want you to notice something. Throughout this entire exploration, we've been acting like visitors, or perhaps frightened tenants, surveying the damage left by a long line of previous occupants, our parents, our culture, our past selves. But now comes the most important realization of all, the breakthrough. You are not a visitor. You are not a tenant. You hold the deed. This house is, and has always been, yours. The emptiness you feel is not the house's fault. It is the ache of an absentee owner. You have abdicated the throne of your own inner kingdom, and the land has fallen into disarray. This is not a judgment. It is an observation born of the deepest compassion. We abandon our own homes for 1,000 understandable reasons, chief among them being that no one ever taught us how to be a homeowner. No one gave us the manual. We were just handed the keys as children and did the best we could. The key to transforming this house is not a magical object you have to find. The key is this very realization, the acceptance of your ownership. It is the shift from, look at this mess, to, this is my home, and I have the power to tend to it. The moment you truly claim ownership, the entire dynamic changes. You are no longer a victim of the house's condition. You are the steward of its future. And what does a good steward do? They don't arrive with a bulldozer. They don't try to renovate the entire house in a weekend. That would be overwhelming and violent. A wise and kind homeowner begins with presence. They simply walk through the rooms, not with judgment, but with gentle, loving attention. They make a conscious choice to inhabit the space. So the breakthrough is this. The goal is not to fix the house. The goal is to live times in it, all of it, to bring the light of your conscious awareness into every dusty corner. Let's reconsider the basement. With the lantern of awareness, you unbolt the door. You don't storm in. You just open it a crack, and you listen. The monster you imagined, the terrifying beast, is not what you find. In the gentle light of your compassion, you see the frightened, neglected parts of yourself. The rage is a terrified guard dog that was only trying to protect a vulnerable child. The envy is a lost part of you that simply points toward your own unfulfilled desires. Your deep sadness is a well of grief that, if finally allowed to flow, could water the entire garden out back. By making the darkness conscious, as Jung advised, you don't destroy it. You integrate it. You bring the exiled parts of yourself home. You go down into the basement and you say, I see you. I'm sorry I locked you away. You are a part of me, and you are welcome here. And a miracle happens. The energy you were using to keep the door bolted is now freed up. The basement, once a place of terror, becomes a source of immense power. Your passion, your creativity, your intuition. The house suddenly feels more solid, more whole, because it is no longer divided against itself. You then take this same energy to the foundation. You sit with the belief, I am not good enough. You don't fight it. You look at it with compassion. You see the small child who first learned to believe it, and you offer that child the love and acceptance they never received. You begin the patient work of pouring new concrete, the concrete of self-compassion. With every small act of kindness towards yourself, you reinforce the foundation. With every moment you choose to believe in your own worthiness, you seal one of the cracks. You pull back the sheets in the living room, one by one. You let the true colors and textures of yourself be seen, first in safe relationships, and then more broadly in the world. You learn to repair the latches on the windows, practicing small but consistent acts of boundary setting. You climb into the attic, and you don't force yourself to open every box. You just pick one, maybe a small one. You open it, you allow yourself to feel what's inside, and then you decide, with wisdom, what to keep, what to honor, and what to let go of. The emptiness begins to recede, not because you have filled it with things from the outside, but because you are filling the house with your own presence. The quiet is no longer the sound of absence. It becomes the sound of peaceful inhabitation. The house comes alive with the warmth of your own attention. This is the extraordinary paradox. The awakening is not about becoming someone new. It is not about building a different house. It is about returning to the home you already are and have always been. The journey is one of reclamation. So now, how do we begin? The prospect of this work can still feel immense, so let's not think of it as a grand renovation project. Let's think of it as one small, gentle act of homecoming. Starting today, I want to empower you with the understanding that the smallest steps create the most profound shifts over time. You don't have to do everything at once. You just have to begin. Tonight, before you go to sleep, just choose one thing. Perhaps you can go to one of the drafty windows of your mind, a place where you consistently let in a cold comment from a coworker or a wave of anxiety from the news. And just for a moment, gently imagine closing the latch. You don't have to lock it forever. Just see what it feels like to create a moment of thermal peace for yourself. Say to yourself, for this moment, my inner home is warm and safe. The wind stays outside. That's it. That's the beginning of building a boundary. Tomorrow, maybe you can walk into the covered living room of your persona. You don't have to rip all the sheets off. Just choose one chair, perhaps representing a small, hidden interest or a quirky opinion you hold. And in a safe conversation with a trusted friend, gently lift a corner of the sheet. Share that small, authentic part of yourself. See what it feels like to let one piece of your real furniture see the light of day. Notice the warmth that comes not from their approval, but from your own act of courage. When you feel that familiar pang of anxiety or that inexplicable sadness, the creaking of the house, try not to run from it. Try not to distract yourself immediately. Instead, pause. Take one deep breath and just listen. Treat the feeling as a communication from a part of your home. Ask it with genuine curiosity. What are you trying to tell me? What room are you coming from? You don't need an immediate answer. The simple act of listening, of turning towards the sound instead of away from it, is a revolutionary act of self-love. It is you, the owner, finally walking the halls of your own home, paying attention. This is not a journey of perfection. There will be days when the drafts feel overwhelming, when you find yourself barricading the basement door again, when you trip on the creaky stairs. That is okay. That is part of the process. The goal is not to have a perfect, pristine house. The goal is to have a lived-in home. A home is a place of comfort, of mess, of life, of safety. A place where all parts of you are welcome. The emptiness that has haunted you for so long is not your enemy. It has been your most faithful messenger. It has been the echo calling you back to yourself. It has been the loyal steward of your house, sending out a signal again and again that the owner is needed at home. Today, you have answered that call. You have stepped across the threshold. You have begun the beautiful, sacred work of coming home. Continue to be gentle with yourself. Be as curious as a child exploring a new place and as compassionate as a loving friend. One window at a time, one box at a time, one breath at a time. The quiet is no longer empty. It is full of potential. It is full of you. Welcome home.